The deepest overpowered character that barely exists. Jevil. I understand that I'm a primarily anime-focused channel, and I have been getting comments to start covering video games as well, since my satire and psychological analysis style isn't really represented there, but I've been a bit hesitant, especially since the few video game videos I've made have done rather poorly, but that ain't gonna hold me back from making a video on Deltarune or Undertale, since despite the lower view count, it's one of my favorite things ever. So in this analysis analyzing Jevil, it's honestly a video anyone can enjoy whether you've played Deltarune or not. Granted, you'll probably enjoy it more if you've played the game, but I'm pretty proud of this one, and I hope you'll soon see why. And for just a moment before getting into the potatoes and meat, yeah, I said that right, this video is sponsored by Man or Vampire, a mobile strategy RPG with a tactical twist. Every fight is set up in a fantastic way that you move your characters on boxes depending on whether you want to attack, defend, or heal, so you're constantly in motion without needing to go through the annoying select skill tabs. You could pop in and out of combat seamlessly. The fights are fast-paced, a lot of fun, and take more thinking than just, let's click on this skill to do that. And I'm just talking about the dungeon lackeys, not even the dungeon bosses, which are pretty fantastic on their own right. It's also set up in a way that you have a main character as well as a bunch of colleagues. These colleagues develop through learning various skills, and of course you can train them to become stronger, but your main character is the only creature in a game that is both a human and a vampire, and you can change their occupation whenever you want. You learn advanced skills from your colleagues, and you can eat them to power up. I actually like a lot of things about this game. Link in the description. Back to the video. Jevil is a character that barely exists in the fashion that you can go through the entire game without even knowing he's there. And even better yet, doing the whole side quest thing to fight him doesn't even change the story or characters at all, because it's your choice to do the side quest or not, and like every other choice in Deltarune, it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, that's one of the two major themes in Deltarune in contrast to Undertale, where every choice matters to an insane degree. In Deltarune, none of your choices matter, also to an insane degree in the opposite direction. And I covered that in my first Deltarune video, discussing why it's a perfect sequel to Undertale, and unfortunately, for me, my video was not all that novel, because that theme of choice, and how futile choices are, was covered and picked up by almost every other channel that made content on Deltarune ever. So at least at the time of me writing this video, no one to my knowledge discussed this following specific theme, especially in how it regards to Jevil, a fan-favorite character to the game, despite barely existing. And what the second crucial theme is what is real? Random point, I did write this video before the game theories. Not that that's an excuse, but at the same time, game theory covers the theory that nothing exists, which I thought was a little bit obvious. I'm covering it as more of a theme of the story as far as what reality actually is, and everything in between. The only Jevil-focused analysis I bumped into kind of went the Gaster route that everyone's thinking, but no one has any evidence for. So we'll be staying a little clear of Gaster for a bit, being that this is an analysis, not really so much a theory. Well, maybe Jevil's relation to the lack of reality in Deltarune is a bit of theorizing, but anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes of reality. When the game begins, some form of omniscient being asks you to select a vessel for your soul. Pick its hairstyle, favorite food, and favorite color, and favorite blood type, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. And then, after all of that is done, I've mentioned in the past this is my second favorite scene of the game, the omniscient being says, "Thank you, truly excellent. Now your vessel will be discarded, because no one can choose who they are in this world." And then Chris, the seemingly main character, awakens. Now, I love how immediately the lack of free choice is pressed as a core attribute of the game, but at the same time, a little less obvious, did that whole select your vessel bit really happen? I mean, it's cool and all, gives the game an extra layer of depth to point out how there's this different entity, being a soul, which seems to be you, inhabiting Chris's body, and there's this omniscient being thing, which we'll make believe isn't Gaster. But not only did it not change anything narrative-wise for the entire story, the way it was framed almost made it seem like a mere dream. Well, now we're in reality, right? Time to head to school. On the way, notice all those characters you already knew from your Undertale experience in a very unexpected setting. Toby Fox, that clever bastard, said this is just an alternate world. Both equally real, yet both drastically different. It's off-putting seeing everyone so different, but cool. We don't know anything about the situation, except you're the only anomaly. A human in a monster world, overground, which drops the entire situation into a bit of a question. But not to worry, because this world isn't even the real point of your existence. You're a hero in the dark world. There's a prophecy about you. That's where you matter. And after that whole adventure is said and done, you appear in the empty classroom. Not the supply closet you disappeared in, but that empty classroom full of suspicious toys that looks exactly like the monsters you fought in the dark world. Were you actually fighting in the dark world Yu-Gi-Oh! GX style? Or was it your own Dungeons & Dragons style imagination with a new friend in a classroom that belongs to a school that you know all too well because your mother teaches in it? All the monsters fought in Dark World are pawns. There's a chessboard with pieces strewn everywhere. All the talk of the legendary Knight of the Dark very well may be a black knight, the horse piece in a chess game. Everything that society was based on in the Dark World were playing cards and suits of cards, just like the playing cards that fall out of the cabinet when you touch it. And what controls any card game? I know, the rules card. Funny coincidence. The leader of the traps in the Dark World is a guy named Rules Card. There's even that one checker piece that when it gets across the board, it gets crowned and becomes more powerful. I believe in the Dark World there was a monster called K-Round, or Crowned, and there's one lonely checkers piece on that chessboard in the classroom. Remember shopkeeper Shaum? Okay, however the hell you pronounce his name. He's basically a haunted stuffed animal, kind of like that tattered stuffed animal in the classroom. The scene is set up to be emphatically clear that it should be 100% ambiguous whether the journey through the Dark World was real or fake. And even Susie asks if any of that was real. Then as the chapter approaches its end, you go to sleep and the screen fades out until that boner-chilling ending where you rip your own heart out and throw it in a cage. Epic, scary, metaphorical, thought-provoking, and again, framed in a way after the screen faded and the character went to sleep, and after the fourth wall break where he stares at you, the player, again, remaining ambiguous if any of this physically happened and if that whole ending was physically real. Now, this theme is constant to the point that the entire journey through the game of Dark World, which is what made you important, or at least feel important, was potentially all a delusion stemmed from loneliness. And a testament to that, how is it possible that you can save and load in real life? We know that these things exist. In Undertale, it was only able to be done through determination. You're determined enough to get back up again to the point that it gave you a time-bending power. None of the save points in Deltarune say anything about determination, so how is it possible that you can save and load unless you're controlling the reality you're in? Now that the theme is elaborated to an extent, because that's really important to the whole game narrative, since to an extent the game in the game is a game, let's discuss someone that seems to be completely unimportant to the game and narrative, but someone who when you fought him, he said, let's play a game, to the point that he barely exists, and that's Jevil, a character whose existence and reality is so barely noticeable, being a potential side boss in a dark world that may not even exist in the world of Deltarune, but his impact is freaking insane. He's so many people's favorite characters, and he's basically pointless to the narrative. That said, he understands that the whole narrative is a game to a greater extent than even the characters within the game. So in the grand game of Deltarune, where the puzzles and fights are supposed to be focused more on character arcs and humor than challenge level, you got Jevil, a boss fight more difficult than anything that exists within Undertale or Deltarune, in my opinion, with the exception to Sans, and I believe everyone that says Jevil's harder just doesn't really remember the Sans fight. But in order to fight Jevil, you find out he's in the deepest part of the land, in the deepest dungeon, and you have to accumulate the broken key pieces to get into his jail cell and fight him. Interestingly enough, when you get to his cell, he mentions that, oh no, he's not the one in prison in that cell. The bars are for everyone else. Everyone else is imprisoned, and he's the only one that's free. Probably my favorite dialogue line in the entire game, because to be honest, it's all a matter of perspective. If the entire world is imprisoned behind these bars and he's the free one, or vice versa, constricting or not, that all depends on your mindset, and it's a true statement either way. And that's because in this game that questions reality, and in this dark world, which may be a game within the game of Deltarune, Jevil is the extreme limits of imagination. He can turn the situation he's in prison and everyone's free, and in his imagination, which is what what he is. He could be the one that's free where everyone else is imprisoned. That's the power of imagination altogether. You don't need to deal with him to complete the game. He doesn't have a physical importance on the narrative himself, even though he kinda is important. And that's really what everyone's imagination is. Everyone's imagination is super important, but seemingly useless to their greater life. He was long ago friends with Shaum, a personality that may or may not exist. In fact, Shaum may be that teddy bear in the classroom that only exists through imagination, where it's just a discarded doll. Jevil is enclosed in a cage, and as you grow older and have no further use for him, just like that classroom was abandoned, memories left aside, Chris's brother Azriel is the successful one as seen in your room with all the medals and awards on the other side of the room, leaving you alone as he went to college, without whom to play until you befriended Susie. Ralsei, the one who needed you to save the day, is an anagram for Azriel, finally relying on you, as opposed to vice versa. Jevil, being the full power of imagination, is the hard boss in an easy game, and both matters, but simultaneously doesn't matter at all. Jevil, in his own words, he can do anything, just like the endless power of imagination and mindset that really molds your life into something that physically maybe it isn't. Arbitrary happiness is not quantifiable by physical materialism and is all really focused on your mind. As someone who has been depressed in the past, I know that as well as anyone. Jevil truly is the only one that's free in the world where everyone past the bars of his cell are the ones in prison. Dark World is both real and not, existing in a fascinating plane of existence that I'm sure will be explored in a future chapter, but Jevil, being a character of questionable existence in this questionably existing world, and despite this still understanding better than anyone else that he's just playing a game with you. All the characters in Dark World, according to this, have the dual interpretation of either reality or figments of imagination. Jevil trumps all of that, and he trumps the level of figment. He is imagination incarnate because he may not even exist in the imagination world, but he's still just as important and potentially more important. This is the limitless power of imagination itself, a boundless power of mischief, chaos.
Chaos. I can do anything.
And that is why Jevil is my favorite character in Deltarune, even though he barely exists. Jevil is a paradox, a character that may not exist, in a world that may not exist, but understands everything far clearer than you do, who definitely exists. He's the fourth step of reality in Deltarune, where you, the player, are step 1. You definitely exist. Deltarune, the game you're playing, is step 2, where Chris in the game exists. But in that game, Chris potentially plays this game in the dark world, which again, may not be reality in Deltarune, so it's a third step. And you can complete all that without Jevil. Then the fourth level is the character Jevil that no one understands, but that understands everything about me. So beauties and gentle beauties, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe for future anime or games or anything content. Let me know in the comments what you'd like in the future, and I apologize again that this is not anime, but I do hope you enjoyed it regardless. Link in the description to my merch, to my Twitter, feel free to follow me there, and to my Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, I'm exceedingly thankful to my patrons. You guys are honestly all amazing and really help keep my channel afloat. All patrons are invited to the Discord server where we hang out having a great time, and unlike Tumblr, we have an NSFW section. Yes, I know, very cool. So I especially wanted to thank King Beat My Meat, Sage of Snake, Pop-Up Grumpy Welshman, Team Sparky 65, Lazy Ronin, Girthy Worm Jim, Fernando Casa, Allison Stricker, JD Finchery Laser, Sash, King Tank Games, Frisky Dingo, Soy Boy Theories, Miriam Ramirez, Q, Thigis Hendrick, sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce that, Colton Scott, Praise Lord of the Girugameshu, Billy Thompson, Mitochondria, Nate, Salve Says, Gremin, Sergeant Malarkey, Alan Weebus, Crazy Beat, Divine Reigns, Miku Teakui, and TM Philly. I also wanted to especially thank the Lord Tweeger rank, honestly a slightly higher rank, I mean they are the Lord Tweegers after all, Meezy Jeezy, Anthony Booth, Steelers, Large Blab, Cream My Pancake, Rari, MD, Necro, Zindergarden, Emperor Misha, and Kyle the Warrior. I also wanted to thank the God Usopp rank, Burning Bush. Hey, is that a mother freaking Bible reference? Dark Element, Sonny Parks, James Pratt, Kaiser Juanar, and Maurice Luis Dreyfus. Thank you all so much for pledging. Thank you all so much for watching until this point. I really appreciate it. I know it's not an anime video, and I know that's probably why most of you subscribed, but I'm happy with how this came out. Once again, huge thanks Manor Vampire for sponsoring this video. Link is in the description. And honestly, Nux Tips to YouTuber burnout, do whatever the hell you want, and I really wanted to talk about Jevil, a truly amazing character that I feel like is designed in a way that we can understand the limits of how we don't understand him, and it's just fascinating. So, thank you all for sticking around. I understand that essentially I made a whole video about imagination right now, and granted it's weird, but hey, in my imagination, weird is good. So remember, stay weird, fam.